What up, sports fans and fellow foodies? I'm Julie, and welcome to my kitchen, where each week I talk sports while whipping up culinary treats. Tonight, we're talking about crunch time in the NFL. Some of the biggest games today were deciding the playoff scenarios. Not necessarily which teams got in, though that did happen too, but also the seeding, and that's where the Bears were affected today. Bears were waiting to see if they were the 2 seed or the 3 seed. Bears win or Philadelphia loss, and the Bears had the 2 seed, setting up another meeting with the Packers. The Eagles, thankfully for the Bears, lost to the Commanders. The Bears spit the bit against the Lions, and they are 0-2 against the Lions this year, 2-4 against the division. So, congratulations, Bears, for winning the division this year, but I'm a little salty with you tonight. No Bears gear tonight. I'm a little angry. I was kind of miffed after the game, and when I heard the players and even Ben Johnson talking after the game about, we got to turn the page. Well, we just got to come out, with more intensity at the beginning of the game. Maybe they're really pissed off in the locker room. Maybe they were angry and punching lockers and throwing helmets and whatever, but they seemed so meh. And I was angry. If I could have recorded this video the second that game ended, we'd have to be, beeping things out here for our family-friendly audience. Regardless, I'm happy the Bears are in the playoffs. They're going to face the Packers Saturday night at 7 at Soldier Field. But I'm a little miffed at the way this game went and the way the Bears, yes, your wonderful comeback kids, Cardiac Caleb, blah, blah, blah. Great, but come out of the gate stronger. Don't put yourself in that position. A lot of good things today and some not so good things today. And I hate losing to the division teams. So yeah, I'm a little salty tonight. But as I mentioned, crunch time. And we're going to talk about one really great game that ended the regular season. Because it's crunch time, I wanted to do something with a little bit of crunch to it. So we're going to make some fried Caprese balls. These are going to have some gooey cheese in the middle, which will hopefully be a preview of what's to come when the Bears take care of the cheeseheads next weekend. So we got some cheese. You know I love working with cheese, and you know I love working with my Fry Daddy. Where we're starting tonight is with some tomatoes. They're like golf ball size, so kind of about this big. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna hollow them out. So what I've been doing with these is just taking a knife and kind of cutting a little circle at the top. You got all that gooey, seedy mess on the inside, all that pulpy mess. I'm using the end of a vegetable peeler to kind of scoop it out. I couldn't find my melon baller. Maybe it's because I haven't made a fruit salad in a watermelon in a long time. But you could use a melon baller if you have a small enough one. If you have a grapefruit spoon. I was just playing around with what worked, and that's what I came up with. That worked well for me. So I scooped out my pulp. Now this is going to be a little bit on the wet side. So what I've been doing is I've been setting them upside down just like that, and they're kind of drying out on the towel to let some of that goop seep out. All right, so now I've got my hollowed out tomatoes. I'm putting in a little bit of mozzarella cheese. Oh my goodness, I love these. I love making caprese salad. So these are the cherry size kind, and you'll just see you want the hole big enough just to squish that in there. Comes right to the lip. And then what we're gonna do, we've got flour. We've got a mixture of 2 eggs with 2 tablespoons of milk that I just mixed with a fork. And then I've got some breadcrumbs right here. I'm using the Italian seasoned ones. And what we're gonna do, this has a little bit of moisture on the outside. I'm just gonna kind of roll it in the flour just a little bit. It doesn't have to be thick on there, but just give it a little bit of matte on the outside there. So then we're gonna go into our egg mixture. We're gonna go into our breadcrumbs. You're just kind of pushing it in there, tossing it around. And then I'm just gonna let it sit in there for a second. Let that dry a little bit. So then I can do a second coat, but we want to let that dry for just one quick second. In the meantime, in my Fry Daddy here, I've got vegetable oil that's been heating up. You want to make sure the oil is hot. Mine certainly is, but if you need to test it, you can put a little bit of water in there. When you hear that sizzle, you will know that it is ready. So this has been heating up for a while. I went to the fill line. If you have a Fry Daddy like this, a fill line amount is just about, I would say, 4/5 of a bottle of oil, a 48-ounce bottle of oil. That got me up to my fill line. If you're using an air fryer, totally different ball game, obviously, but I'm old school. I love the Fry Daddy. So I think my second or third one I've had. All right, so this guy had a second to dry. You can see he's got a nice little coating on here. We're going to toss him back in the egg wash mixture, back into the breadcrumbs, and we're going to let him sit for a second. While we're doing that, let's talk about the showstopper game that ended week 18. It was the Steelers and the Ravens in Pittsburgh. Winner in the playoffs, loser goes home. Such a shame with these two teams that somebody had to be left out. But it had all the intrigue and all the drama. And at the end, it came down to two kickers. You had a kicker for Pittsburgh miss a point after. So suddenly Pittsburgh is up by 2 instead of 3. Baltimore has an opportunity with a field goal to win the game as time's expiring. Instead, you have the Baltimore kicker wide right. He misses it. Baltimore loses. Pittsburgh's in. Aaron Rodgers back in the playoffs. That poor kicker for Baltimore, my heart just broke for him. Tyler Loops is the kid's name. He's a rookie, and this poor guy had not missed a field goal under 50 yards all year. And this was a 44-yarder. He missed it, crumples his face into his hands. They don't make the playoffs. He's going to have a rough couple of days getting over that one. But it was great drama. All right, this has been sitting for a little bit. I'm ready to put it in. I'm going to use my fingers because I'm a chef and I get burns all the time anyway. But you want to be really careful. You don't want to plunk it in. You want to kind of gently set it in there. You'll hear that sizzle, and we're going to let that go for probably about a minute or so just because my oil is so hot. So the NFL had this set up this year where final week of the season, they were division games, and those division games paid off big time. You had some fun ones today. Detroit, the Bears, maybe not so much fun, but you did have some really good games today, some games where people sat. How about Biscuit, Mitch Trubisky? He was playing for the Bills today. Josh Allen took the first snap so he could keep his game started streak alive. Mitch Trubisky came in and lit it up. So you know how I love Mitch Trubisky. But some great games today, some drama, and the playoffs getting ready to start next week, except for those 1 seeds that will have the bye. And for the Bears, if they beat the Packers, or I should say when they beat the Packers, it'll be a matchup with the winner of the Philadelphia-San Francisco game. So that's a good one to keep an eye on. But we do not want to look past the Green Bay Packers. All right, so as I'm pulling this out, it's got this nice crispy coating on here. There's our crunch. I'm going to just toss that over here onto my plate with these other two guys that I took out right before we started filming. So we're going to cut into one of those and see how they're looking. I'm going to drizzle them in some balsamic glaze, which is also one of my favorites. You can put some basil leaves on here if you'd like to gussy it up, make it fancy. So I'm going to take my little tomato cutting knife here, cut into one of these, and we're going to see this beautiful gooey deliciousness. Give you a look, see it inside. Look at that. Doesn't that look yummy? So hopefully that's what the Bears are doing to the Packers next week, is just mashing them up and making them a gooey mess. I don't know, it's not the greatest metaphor, but it works. Anyway, Bears, I'm not all that ticked off at you. I will be back in Bears gear after like maybe a 24-hour hiatus. Just had to be mad at you for a little bit today, but you are in the playoffs. Chris Kelly, he and I co-host a webinar on Wednesdays on LinkedIn. He is a diehard Boston fan. We've been talking for a few months now about a Bears-Patriots Super Bowl rematch, maybe? I don't know. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself after the Bears have lost the last two. But boy, he and I have been talking about how great it would be if these teams met for all the marbles. All right, again, I'm still on the bandwagon, Bears. I still love you guys. I've loved you since Jim McMahon was my favorite player back in the day. But yeah, today ticked me off just a little bit. All right, great things though from some of the younger guys. Great signs for the future. And boy, this looks great too. So I'm going to munch on this while I mull over what the Bears need to do to come out strong next week. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time. Go Bears.